On time. We're already late. So much for that. 2 minutes. All right, we're going to go ahead and the special meeting of the Destin City Council, October 21st of 2021, call to order. We don't have a pastor here, so ma'am, would you like to lead us in the pledge? We have a slot here for public comment, and seeing how this is a public hearing, Kyle, I didn't have an opportunity to talk to you. Is the public comment part of the public hearing, or is this separate outside of it before we start the hearing?
This is a separate public comment period. We will also open public comment during the reading of the ordinance.
So these public comments can be items on the agenda, not on the agenda, or, see, now it's a special meeting, I'm assuming if anybody wants to comment, they're going to talk about the undergrounding. All right. Okay, so I'll open up the public comments portion of the meeting right now. If anybody wants to come up, make any comments, any statements. There is not a mad rush to the podium, so I'm going to close the public comment portion of it. And Mr. Baumann, take it away.
All right, this is the first reading of ordinance number 2122 CN, an ordinance granting to Gulf Power Company, its successors and assigns, an electric franchise, imposing provisions and conditions relating thereto, providing for monthly payments to the city of Destin, and providing for an effective date. And this is the public hearing, if you want to go ahead and open it real quick.
Seeing how this is a public hearing, I'll open up this portion of the hearing for public comment. Seeing none, I'll close the comment period and we can press on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a brief history. Back in 2016 timeframe, our current or the existing franchise agreement did expire, and we've been in negotiations ever since then, trying to get it back in place. Pleased to tell you that we've got a representative from Gulf Power, Bernard Johnson is here, and we've got Kate Kottner, I hope I said it right, here also. Online we have Mark Porter, who is our rep from the underground, for our undergrounding project. And we have our special counsel, Mr. Chef Wright here, who's been leading this charge for us, and he will be taking the floor shortly. Before you tonight is a revised franchise agreement for your consideration. It is a 30-year term. It has been painstakingly reviewed, and Mr. Wright will explain the ins and outs of it to you shortly. But before we do that, I was going to let Councilman Destin have the floor, as he was appointed by you to be the representative for the council.
Mr. Destin.
Thank you. As I'm sure all of us have spoken to Chef and answered questions that we may have had, when I was involved in the writing of the first franchise 30-some years ago, I never really figured I'd be here to do the second one, but someone has looked upon me with favor, and I'm hoping Mr. Schmidt and our other young councilman over there, Johnny, will be here when this is redone again. So you can have a lot of inside knowledge to give to the gang. As best I can tell, this is very close approximation to the franchise we did 30 years ago. It has the ability to buy out at the end of the 30 years and a couple of other wrinkles that are actually a little more advantageous to us. And you know, I want to thank Chef and the folks on the other side of the negotiation table. Going through this one was a lot better than the last one. And they have cooperated very well and have a very good, it appears, attitude that means they want to work with us and we'll go together in a partnership to try to get some of these utilities underground. So on that note, I will make the motion so that we can go ahead and start a discussion. Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion, and I have a second, and so now we can have discussion. Would you like to hear from our presenters before we have discussion, or?
You know, that wouldn't hurt. I don't know if I got ahead of the game by making the
No,
motion.
that's fine. We got the ball rolling, so.
Got it.
Lance, do you care who steps up to the plate first? Would you rather Shep start?
I'll let Chef lead this off.
Mr. Wright, you have the floor. Don't forget to hit the button. Oh, state your name and your address for the public record.
Thank you, Mayor Jarvis, council members. My full name is Robert Scheffelwright. My business address is Gardner Bist Law Firm, 1300 Thomas Wood Drive, Tallahassee, Florida, 32308. Great to be here again. Thank you. It's really great to be here tonight for this occasion. What you have before you is a new franchise with Gulf that will become a franchise with Florida Power and Light Company, I fully believe, come January 1st, when I believe their rate unification plan in one form or another will be approved by the PSC and take effect on January 1. So I may say Gulf FPL, Gulf/FPL, whatever, but it's the same company. The franchise is subject to some really important provisions, a 30-year franchise. The most important of those provisions is that we have a separate, it's Exhibit 1 to the franchise, a separate underground facilities conversion agreement that does provide favorable, advantageous terms to the city that we hope to negotiate in a mutually agreed form with Gulf FPL sometime within the next 2 years, hopefully sooner rather than later. If we successfully negotiate that, the franchise then becomes effective. Both parties sign, accept, done. But the franchise thereafter would be effective for a full 30 years from the effective date. If not, at the end of that first 2-year period, the city's right to purchase, which existed in the previous franchise and which does exist in this franchise, will revest, after which we, the city, would then have 12 months within which to exercise, give notice, and begin taking material steps toward the acquisition. We don't have to actually consummate it within a year, but we don't just say, hey, we were doing this and mess around. This is serious stuff, and everybody takes it seriously, and we would do so. If everything goes the way we all hope and expect it will, the franchise will be effective for 30 years. At the end of that 30-year period, the city will still have the right to purchase. It will remain at and after the 30 years expiration of the franchise. There are some other things that can happen. I think they're unlikely, but there are some other things that can happen that could trigger an early termination. Upon such early termination, the city's right to purchase would again revest. Those include a change in law, for example, a state, and I don't think this is going to happen, but a state law creating full retail competition for electricity, and we're not able to come to agreement with FPL on the terms of a franchise under this new arrangement. If we can't fix whatever happens to their satisfaction, they can terminate. If they terminate, we get to, our right to purchase revests. If they default and can't fix it, our right to purchase would revest. Things like that. It's not, again, not likely to, and there's a favored nations clause regarding franchise terms. If we give somebody else a franchise under some new hypothetical legal structure and we don't fix it to their satisfaction, they can terminate. If they terminate, our right to purchase revests. Like I said, these are not events that are likely to occur, but they are built in here because it's better to have things addressed than not. You'd rather have a good contract than an okay lawsuit, right? So the franchise fee rate will increase under the new franchise from 4% to 6%. The increment is earmarked for supporting an undergrounding of overhead utility facilities of all types, not just electric, but electric, telecom, cable, broadband, anything of that type is within the scope of this. There's presently a 10% earmark within that increment for landscaping the converted areas. That's most of the franchise. If you wanted, we could go in more detail. We've talked about it at some length at previous meetings, but that's the real guts of the bargain here. The undergrounding agreement does give us a favorable term for a particular item in the computation of what the city would have to pay for undergrounding. The formula is basically the cost of new underground minus the cost of equivalent new overhead, and then plus or minus some other things, but the big one in there is the avoided storm restoration costs that the utility would otherwise save because stuff's underground. If it's underground, unless it's way out right at the edge of the water and gets washed out, if it's underground, it doesn't get knocked down. And the cost savings are dramatic. Gulf's own analysis indicated that, based on their experience with Hurricane Michael, that the difference in storm restoration costs of overhead versus the small amount that was impacted by underground was $770,000 a mile. That's the value they've agreed to give us as a credit in this, for the first phase of this agreement. That first phase is limited to 3.25 miles. That's slightly bigger than the first phase we're currently contemplating from bridge to airport. That's 3.05 miles. And that's still something that has to be further and finally defined and nailed down, but that's where we are. So this is a good deal. It's a good option to have. There will be a new tariff in place with a slightly different formula. I am assured by my counterparts at Gulf FPL that the new formula will be at least as advantageous as the existing formula, although that's not typically, for most projects, not as advantageous as the credit they've agreed to give us in this agreement, based on their Michael experience directly. So
I got a couple of questions, folks.
I can, as far as I'm concerned, that's a pretty good summary, and I'm happy to take any questions y'all have.
All right, Mr. Bagby, got a question for Shep?
No, a couple of things. Thank you for the briefing that you gave me this afternoon, kind of bring me up to speed. I just wanted to thank Mr. Destin and the previous Mr. Destin for all the work that they've done on this. I do have one minor change I would like to suggest in section 5 at the top of the page. I think it's the second paragraph at the end of the second paragraph. Underground facilities shall be set aside and used. Well, let me read the entire sentence here because that'll make more sense. Oh, it's a long sentence. Okay. The city expressly covenants that it will dedicate any amounts received as franchise consideration that are over and above 4% of the grantee's revenue from the furnishing of electric service to customers served under the grantee's residential, commercial, and industrial rate schedules within the city to be used solely for the purpose of financing the conversion of existing overhead utility facilities to underground facilities, provided that a minimum of 10% of all such revenues dedicated to the conversion of utility facilities to underground facilities be set aside and used exclusively for landscaping of the underground conversion areas. The word I would like to add in there is, in that segment, is set aside and used exclusively for landscaping and maintenance of the underground conversion areas. What you're talking about is $80,000 a year times 30 years, 2.4 million. And I do love southern magnolia trees, and I love, everybody knows I love the oak trees, but that's my favorite. But that's a lot of trees. So I think the intent, and Parker's not here, but I think the intent was to maintain that area, not just solely use that money for planting of trees.
It's really a call for the city council. It makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah, that's, well, I'm going to ask the
Other than just a question to ask, is that written in the proper manner so that we are in charge of maintaining the landscape areas? We would not be in charge of maintaining the power lines that we put down. That would flow back to Gulf Power.
Gulf Power, FPL will maintain their electrical facilities.
Okay, and so this is just maintenance
This-
of the landscape areas.
The language suggested by Councilmember Bagby only relates to the maintenance of the landscaped
Okay,
areas.
and should we put and, or, city attorney? Anybody have an opinion on that?
Jim, if the money does it need to be spent on maintaining the electrical grid because it's their responsibility, then can we
No,
just?
it's the maintenance of
Just
the landscaping.
Oh,
I'm only talking about the landscaping. Right, the way it reads right now is 2.4 million for landscaping, of which a majority of it needs to be two types of trees, which I'm okay with, but that's a lot of money on those trees. I want it to be for the installation and maintenance of the landscaping, and maybe I should ask the maker of the motion
Yeah.
to reword it that way.
It is and.
Yeah.
Do you have another interpretation, Chip?
Of course,
I
my
don't know-
pages aren't numbered, or I'd tell you what.
Yeah.
Page
It's
10.
section 5, it's,
Yeah, it's section 5, and it's, yeah, it's the top, at the top of the page, it begins,
Yeah.
underground facilities shall be set aside and used exclusively for landscaping. I think we might say, continuing on, landscaping of the underground conversion areas where such landscaping shall specifically include planting, and I thought we had discussed possibly including and maintenance
You can
after
put it
the
there.
word planting.
You can put it there.
And I think by the specific reference to underground conversion areas,
Yeah, my
and
only
landscaping, I
concern,
don't think there's any question that it applies only to
yeah,
the landscaping, not to anything having to do with.
And that's in the
I mean, we
purview-
wouldn't do it, and they
Right.
shouldn't, they wouldn't let us, we shouldn't.
And that's
do
in
it.
the purview of the council anyways, as far as the landscaping's concerned, what
Yes.
kind of trees and that kind of stuff. So we have control of that.
I would ask that the maker of the motion change it, that top line to say, and used exclusively for the installation and maintenance of landscaping. And the reason I put it there and not where we had talked about earlier, Chef, was because
That's fine,
include
boss.
planning and maintenance to the maximum extent possible. That's only talking about the installation of landscaping of those trees, whereas the preceding one is about all the landscaping, or it refers to all that. You see what I'm saying? Kyle?
I've got it written down. I understand what your motion, or
Yeah.
what your request is.
Yes, I don't have any problem making that part of the motion.
Second, you good with that? Okay,
Thank you.
all
That's,
right.
thank y'all. Y'all have done a lot of hard work. I'm glad to be here at the finish line where I can raise my hands as we break the tape or something.
All right, Dewey, I got you. On the thing, you're good? Okay, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you. Two questions. First, Mr. Shep, thank you again for all the hard work over the years. Mr. Destin again. Does the franchise fee, the 2% addition, does that trickle down to, who does that trickle down to across the city? Is it all residents all across the entire city?
It's general fund money, Councilmember.
To
So-
the actual homes and businesses, and who's actually paying for that franchise fee? For
Oh,
this
who's
2%
paying?
increase? Yeah. Just wanted to.
It'll be a line item called franchise fee on the electric bill
For all.
for every electric customer,
Gotcha. And then this might be.
business
for-
and residential.
Okay, and this might be for the team sitting right there, but will we be able to differentiate the 2% addition as a separate item on the bill? So it's just gonna be like a 6% franchise fee?
It'd be
line
6%.
item? Okay,
Making sure, no, it'll be one line, franchise fee. Currently, it's 4%. It'll be 6%, and that'll just be the number that shows up.
So it'll just
if
be-
if the other charges towed up to $100.
Sure.
It'll be $6
Yeah.
in February as opposed to $4
Okay.
today.
so it'll just be our responsibility, and Catherine and other folks, to educate the increase and what it's actually being used for, to highlight that, so I think would be good education for everybody
Yes.
to know, but good to know. Thank
I
you,
agree.
sir.
Yes, sir.
And I got Ms. Abear, and then after the council gets done questioning Shep, I'd like to give you guys an opportunity to come up here and make a statement and then get queried by the council if they have any questions as well. So Shep just doesn't have to stay up here and take it all himself. Go
That's
ahead.
my job.
Thank you, Mayor. Shep, again, thank you for getting all this together, working on this over the last several years, working hard and keeping us up to speed. To expand on what my council partner, Mr. Schmidt, said, this means everybody, Regatta Bay, Kelly Plantation, all residents of Destin, or just tax-paying residents of Destin?
All electric customers of Destin. Yeah, if they got a Gulf account, they're paying the franchise fee, they're going to have an FPL account, they're paying the franchise fee. Trying to silence my.
Any other questions for Shep while we got him up here? Seeing none. Bernard, would you like to come up, make us comments, and take any questions from our council? Thank you, Shep.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Chef. Bernard Johnson, Gulf Power Company, 140 Hollywood Boulevard. We're very pleased that the council made the decision to kind of help move this forward. And I know we've been working closely with Chef, our folks, and all that, working together as a team to get where we are today. So we appreciate your time and that effort for sure. So any questions you may have?
Go ahead, Robert.
About 2 weeks ago, we had some gentlemen, two individuals coming through our neighborhood, Indian Bayou. They were trying to sell us something that goes on the meter, or behind the meter or something, to sell power back to Gulf Power, and said that Gulf Power has already started a $60 million, I think it was $60 million, I'm 99% sure. He said a $60 million undergrounding project. Wasn't real sure how. I had to go, couldn't listen to his spiel long, but I don't know how I was selling power back to Gulf Power by just sticking something on my meter. But he was trying to sell us something. But do you have any idea who to? I know there's all over town. Is there anything that I don't know about undergrounding that's already been started?
It's all new to me. Yeah, I've heard anything like that. I mean, $60 million. Yeah, that. And there's a lot of things going on out there that people are saying that they're partnering with Gulf Power. You know, a lot of solar pieces and organizations out there saying that they're tied to us. So, yeah, we're not tied to that. They're running. Council.
It's always good to see you.
All's good.
Just want to thank you for coming back from vacation, take time with us. We
There
appreciate
go.
you.
It's good to be here. It's good to be here. Appreciate your time.
All right. No further questions? How about any further discussion on the first reading? Seeing none, let's go ahead and take a vote at this time. Vote is unanimous, so moved. So, all right. And that is all we have for tonight, correct? Any other further comments? Seeing none? Oh, yes, public comments.
They may have showed up late. They just showed up. You want to talk?
Yeah, we've already legislated, but you're more than welcome to come up and call us bad names if you'd like. Anyway, come on up, Claude.
A little bout with the COVID, but I think I made it. It's a struggle. Claude Perry, I live at 732 Harbor Boulevard. I'm sure you all received the same notice I did from the DOT regarding their project, which goes from the bridge, Marla Bridge, to airport. And I was just wondering, who's going to coordinate? How does that work with getting this undergrounding? Frankly, I couldn't quite understand. Did y'all get this notice? I couldn't quite understand exactly what they were trying to say, but it looks like it runs out to 2023. So how do we coordinate the undergrounding with this project, because they're certainly vitally connected, and also with the utilities, including Destin water users, if they're planning, and I hope they are, some changes that will improve, especially for the south side of 98, which we don't have water. We always have to go bore under 98, which is not the proper way to do it. The main line is north of 98 and not south of 98. So there are a lot of issues that need to be coordinated. And if we have an answer to that tonight, maybe we don't have it quite yet. I don't know.
Hang tight, Claude, we got to answer.
We've got a couple of folks that can answer you. Is that all you wanted to say? And
Yeah, I just think that.
Okay.
I think the public needs to know kind of where we're going in terms of a timeline.
Okay, well, Lance got a couple answers for you, so
Yep.
I'll let him go. And if you're done, thank you, Claude.
Thank you, Claude. That's a great question, a question that was posed by council a few months back. And we are fortunate to have our representative online tonight. So if it's okay with you, Mark, if I put you on the spot, because I know you and I discussed this personally right after the council posed the question. And I know that you and your team are already coordinating efforts between this project and DOT, and will continue to do so in the future. But if you want to just comment on that for me real quick. Hang on just a second, Mark. I think, try again.
Mark, you might have to unmute yourself there. Thank you.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
You're good.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and council members. It's good to see everybody again. And yes, that's accurate. Part of our scope is obviously coordination efforts with the FDOT and the county as well, just to make sure that we capitalize that work effort in line with anything they've got and take advantage of any cost saving opportunities with that as well. So to add to that, we have had conversations with FDOT. We're aware of a couple of improvements that they have, so we'll continue that dialogue throughout the project and before we kick anything off, so that we can make sure that we're ahead of that, and we are aware of some of that work that's coming out.
And also during this process, when we get going, there's going to be some opportunities, some public workshops and stuff where your team's going to come in and kind of educate the citizens of Destin on where we're at, where we're going, and how the process is going to work, correct?
Correct. Yep. Transparency is the best policy. So moving forward, we want to make sure that we're working with everybody, Gulf Power, FPL, and then of course the city, and just make sure that everybody's on board. But FDOT has been very cooperative up to this point, as well as the county. They've been more than willing to share information, and we've got their work programs moving forward, so we can take that into consideration with this planning.
Any council members, while we have him here, any questions or any comments? Seeing none at this time, thank you very much. Claude, I hope that answers some of your questions. That's why we hired that company to oversee the project managers. All right.
Gary, can somebody answer the question on the flyer that he was put out, the DOT? Is that their landscaping improvement project that he's referring to?
I don't know. I haven't seen that.
Does anybody here know about
If I
it?
remember, I think if that's the flyer that I got, that's the PD&E study, announcing the PD&E study from Airport Road to the bridge.
For landscaping, correct?
It is for traffic flow and to help with capacity issues in that stretch, including some of the intersections that we've taken a look at, like Stallman and things like that.
So it's just merely a traffic study? Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else would like to come up, make a comment? Want to make a comment? You good?
Good, thank you.
Well, you're the public now. You're off the clock, sir. All right. Seeing no further public comment, I'm going to go ahead. This meeting's adjourned.